Good afternoon, graduates. Today is your day, a day of reflection, a day of celebration. It is such an honor and a pleasure for me to be here with you as your 2018 Master's Ceremony Commencement at Georgia Tech, my alma mater. I want to thank President Peterson and Provost Raphael Boss for their forward-thinking leadership and innovation that really has continued at Georgia Tech. And it really is at the forefront of learning institutions. I too must also recognize the faculty, the trustees, the administrators, and the staff who've really poured valuable time and insights into this graduating class and share it with them the wisdom and the benefits of pursuing continual and episodic educational experiences, reminding them constantly that in order to keep up with the rapid changes of technology and the ever-changing landscape of knowledge, that knowledge and learning continues for a lifetime, and many of you will and should continue beyond your masters. To the family and friends, this day is as much yours as the graduates. You too have sacrificed much in their support of their dreams, so congratulations. And graduates, when you get home, give them a hug. Give them a hug, for they have supported you through thick and thin. And to all of you brilliant, smart, and promising graduates of the class of 2018, your moment has finally come. You will walk across the platform, receive your master's degree, and join those of us that continue to move forward, remembering that the difference between knowledge and learning, that gain in knowledge is what you have accomplished by attending Georgia Tech, but the learning really comes from the testing of that knowledge that has been gained with your master's degree. At Morehouse School of Medicine, our vision is framed by three imperatives that are really tied to the success of teaching and testing of the knowledge through the accomplishments of our graduates as they continue to make inroads and have impact, not only in the community but across the world. They are translating discovery into health equity, building bridges between healthcare and health, and lastly, preparing future health learners and leaders. Now let me expound upon that a little bit more, because we believe that the best way to advance knowledge of health equities and to educate and equip this next generation is to really be an advocate and positively impact our community by growing our own. Studies show that the United States is facing a shortage of physicians, particularly in primary care and those who would practice in rural and disadvantaged areas. And while many medical schools understand this to be a problem, very few make finding a solution the focal point like we do. At Morehouse School of Medicine, we have outstanding healthcare professionals who are more likely to practice in underserved areas than their counterparts at other institutions because of our focus. We choose students who come from underserved communities, both rural and urban. Focusing on growing our own has not gone unnoticed, as we were ranked first among U.S. medical schools for our contribution to the social mission of medical education. We very much believe in the power of possible. Interestingly, this mindset has already been set within your 2018 graduating class as well. And you have already begun to set standards high of overcoming obstacles and moving past limitations while embracing the power of possible. For example, Wazim Eli, he will receive his MBA today with a concentration in business analytics and operations management after earning his undergraduate degree at Georgia State. He's not in attendance today because he's serving as a sergeant in the Army National Guard and the 48th Infantry Brigade Combat Team. We thank him for his dedication and service to this country. And all the way from Austria, we have Herman Hans, who's looking at us online. Wave to him, wave to him. He earned his online Master of Science in Computer Science entirely from Austria, where he is a citizen. And today he's attending the ceremony via live stream. He received his undergraduate degree in 2006 from Georgia Tech, but wanted to continue his education and came back 10 years later to earn his Master's of Computer Science here at Georgia Tech. Can we give him a round of applause? You see, that's the power of possible in action. And let us not forget Iana Jones, who's from Kansas City, Missouri. Today, she will receive her master's in Earth and Atmospheric Sciences, having earned her bachelor's degree in 2016 as a magna cum laude graduate of Clark Atlanta University. And she is studying to determine whether one of Jupiter's moons is habitable. Now, Iana, if your studies show that they are, please don't forget me. I may take that journey with you. I want you all to know that if it is probable, then it is possible. Let me share a quote with you. We waste our time waiting for the ideal path to appear, but it never does, because we forget that paths are made by walking, not waiting. And no, you shouldn't feel more confident before you take the next step. Taking the next step is what builds your confidence. I was grateful for my experience at Georgia Tech and completed my degree in chemistry. When I walked through that tunnel that afternoon many years ago, I reflected on how far I had come. I had graduated at the top of my class from Southwest High School in Macon, Georgia. I was a first-generation college graduate, and I had overcome osteomyelitis as a young girl, 8 years old. With this illness, I was in the hospital for months, and it placed me behind in school. And it positioned me on a bus called the Lucky Duck bus. That bus had academically diverse learners that would chart a path for me to academic medicine and health equity. For I too, on my crutches, trying to catch up, I too was diverse from my physical limitation. I rode the bus for several months. However, during that time on the bus, I began to chart a course for those on the bus to move forward. Luckily, I was a smart student. I studied hard, so I would work with the other students on the bus, some who needed help with reading, some who needed help with math, and sometimes our lessons would take a little too long, but the bus driver would drive a little slower so that we could finish that lesson. I remember my last day on that bus. I was both sad and happy as I had gained new friends and colleagues. The dichotomy of that bus experience, though, prepared me for my next phase. I had become their champion, and unbeknownst to me, I was the greatest benefactor. Riding that Lucky Duck bus was the preparation for me to walk down that tunnel at Georgia Tech in 1983. And it was my preparation for me to walk down a similar tunnel today, 35 years later, as a graduate from Harvard Medical School and the first female president and dean of a freestanding medical school, Morehouse School of Medicine. That experience allowed me to master the middle. For you see, I didn't come to Georgia Tech wanting to be a chemistry major. I started out in chemical engineering. Now, as a girl from Macon, Georgia, whose mother worked a swing shift in a paper factory, she rose to be the highest ranking woman in that paper factory. You can bet that my view of engineering was somewhat skewed. I co-opted several quarters with the company thinking that soon I'm going to feel the passion of understanding the kinetics of detergent synthesis. It's going to come, I know it is. And when the company told me that I was being considered for a permanent offer, I thought, I am in the middle, torn between being comfortable and graduating with a chemistry degree, or actually trying to decide Do I take this bird in the hand, or do I actually figure it out? Figure out what I really want to do. Many of you understand this crossroad, for you have an undergraduate degree. Many of you are working and you have families who are dependent on you, or you have parents like my mom who said, girl, they offered you a good job, you better take that job. Yet you recognize that there's a gnawing that said that you needed to do more. There was more for you to learn. There was more for you to master. And now look at you, getting ready to walk across that stage and reach another milestone. My question to you, though, what have you discovered while you were mastering in the middle? Georgia Tech was a wonderful experience. I learned how to think critically and not just think beyond what was just in front of me, but to think and look beneath the surface to be both logical and fair. I was able to hone these skills and incorporate them into my daily analytical thinking, using them as a measurement to discover what's possible. The figure it out slogan was one that one of my professors used over and over again, and it gave me intellectual perseverance, integrity, courage, and most of all, humility that I apply each and every day of my life, because like you, and for me, I'm sure you've experienced this at Tech, that there is always someone smarter than you. You too understand that actually the national grading system is actually flawed, because at Georgia Tech, an A is really based on who else is in the room with you taking the test. And that the A may numerically be 65 out of 100 instead of 90 out of 100. And oh, the most humbling of experiences, because we used to take little tests in these little light blue books, and you knew there was a problem when there was only 5 questions but 30 pages to write on. And you would answer just one question using 6 or 7 of the pages, and then use the remainder to write out your final answer. You get the test back, 0 credit, because the final answer was wrong, because there was no such thing as partial credit. But I know I'm just living in the past, because surely my alma mater has narrowed that divide, right? So imagine when I went to Harvard Medical School and found out that it was pass-fail, I was very happy. I was so traumatized from my tech experience, it never even dawned on me to suspect that there were other ways to grade a student's performance. I'm sorry, Bud, I'm sorry. I just could not resist throwing a jab or two, because graduates, to this day, having completed medical school, residency training, fellowships, leadership development, an MD and MRS. I have 2 wonderful children. I often say that Georgia Tech was the hardest thing that I have ever done, and I would not change a moment of it. Graduates, you will find yourself like me, thanking Georgia Tech for the experience. I do so often. Receiving your master's comes with responsibility, the responsibility to do more. Some of you will return to your current profession with new skills and understandings and contribute. Some of you are going to start new adventures and make new discoveries, and some of you have recognized already that that gnawing is still there, and you will begin your Ph.D. studies soon. And as you venture beyond the middle onto the next phase, I ask you to think on a few things. Align your professional identities with a vision that you have for others first and then for yourself. Now, what do I mean by this? I have a vision that health equity is achievable, that we can assist everyone with achieving their optimum level of health by giving them what they need, when they need it, and the amount that they need. For some, yes, it is access through an insurance card. But for some, it's access to new procedures that some of you will discover, or new drugs that some of you all will develop. But for some, it's better housing, or educational opportunities, or even employment. What I know that is in order to ensure that I am working toward this goal, I ask one simple question when I engage with patients and families and learners. Based on who's sitting in front of me, what's possible? Based on who's sitting in front of me, what's possible? In order to answer that, it requires that I listen and that I think in limitless possibilities for what's possible for them. My professional identity as an MD becomes the backdrop for the opportunity, for it only gave me access to be engaged with the patient or the learner. Secondly, the word technology in the name of this great school has surely evolved to mean so much more than engineering. When I was here, I only knew of 3 degrees: engineering, architecture, and industrial management. I didn't even know that you could get a chemistry degree. I was prepared to leave after 4 years without a degree because you didn't need one to get into medical school, you just needed the prerequisites. And I was determined to go to medical school. But my advisor pulled me aside and said, you should at least take the senior chemistry courses and leave with a degree in chemistry. Thank goodness for others seeing the future of what else Georgia Tech could offer on the backdrop of math, science, and technology. By building on the foundation of technology, Georgia Tech now has multiple degree opportunities, many of which build a bridge between the limitations and opportunities of technology. Today, Morehouse School of Medicine and Georgia Tech are in partnership, and we will have students entering in the fall who will get their MD degree from Morehouse School of Medicine and their MBA from Georgia Tech. I ask you to remember this about technology, though. Technology is a continuous process. Technology loves to share. It duplicates, it repeats, and yes, technology allows you to get to the end user faster. But yet, it still needs a user. It still needs a master. As you become an alum of this great institution, some of you for the second time, you join an inspirational body of learners and professionals. And finally, I ask you to find the joy in what you have mastered. Feel it and let it wash over you. By figuring out what I didn't want to be, I found out what I could be. I found my passion. My love for math and science led me to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, through its rigors, gave me the courage to say no and to explore the possibility of yes. And I found medicine and was able to build the bridge to my passion for caring for people using discovery and technology as a source for always seeing what's possible. It is my passion that leads me to the joy I experience of doing my life work. And finally, remember to take care of yourself. Exercise, eat healthier, read, listen to music, dance, and laugh. For when health is absent, wisdom cannot reveal itself, art cannot manifest, strength cannot fight, wealth becomes useless, and intelligence cannot be applied. Class of 2018, congratulations, well done.